things that you have to be conscious of is, or you should be asking me, and I know you were thinking this. Play along. If you're telling me that I can use this in a bath exhaust, how do I know that that bath exhaust odor will not be transferring to the incoming airstream? You were wondering that, weren't you? You are now. Yeah, okay, good. See, I picked the right guy. It's a very good question. The thing about these cores is, and by the way, we're up to the 5th generation of these cores. And there are, and I encourage you, by the way, to come up and take a look at this. This is a very small sample of the core material. I'm happy for you to pick it apart and see what makes this up. But what the core material, or the plate material, has very finely sized pores. And it is predictable size, and we can tell you, based on the size of the pores, what will transfer through that plate. We know what the molecular weight is of a water molecule. We know what the molecular weight is of an ammonia molecule. And we can tell you with absolute certainty at what rate certain VOCs will transfer, if they'll transfer, and if so, at what rate. But you don't have to trust us, because one of the things I'll show you, and like I said, I get ahead of my slides a lot of times, AHRI has a standard 1060, and it covers ventilation devices. And one of the ratings that it includes in their verification of ventilation manufacturers' claims is something called EATR, exhaust air transfer ratio. So in other words, the rate at which VOCs in one airstream will transfer to the other stream. And you can check the Renew Air listing there. They're certified for 0 cross-contamination or 0 EATR. We will not transfer anything from one airstream to the other. And it all goes right to this. The finely sized pores, this is a very big exploded example of what the static plate would look like. But by diffusion, the water molecules will transfer through. Does that make sense to you? Because of the pore sizes on the plates, we tell you that we know that a water molecule is 2.8 angstrom molecule, and it will efficiently pass through the core membrane. There are a whole list of other things that will be exhausted out of the building. And this is what I mentioned earlier. We are certified for AHRI for 0 cross-contamination. So, just to sort of recap, the fundamentals of energy recovery ventilators, what we're trying to accomplish is, in summer, the pre-cooling and drying of hot, humid air incoming, and in winter, preheating. And actually, in winter, at different outside temperatures, you're going to have different humidity levels. So we're actually going to be able to introduce some humidity into the space through an ERV. But the effectiveness of the transfers from one airstream to the other will be somewhere between 55 and 75% of the energy that is carried in the exhaust airstream. Yes. And and by the way, I suggest this to you, if you're going to look at a manufacturer for a balanced airflow solution here, look into the entities that certify their performance. For residential application, and it's up to 300 CFM in that case, HVI is the certifying body, Home Ventilating Institute. You'll find Renew Air listed there prominently. For above 300 CFM, AHRI is the body that oversees that. UL is listed for both, we have UL listings, not just for the electrical side of it, but also for the flammability rating on the core material. So, since I'm picking on you, we're talking about some very small openings here, right? So it would be natural to ask the question, do those things get clogged up, right? Renewair likes to, well, when cigar bars started, Renewair was used in a lot of cigar bars. And I know for a fact that this core right here was brought back from a cigar bar in New York after it had been in use for 3 years. So what you're looking at here is a core that was pretty well abused. It looks like they didn't even have the filters in. You know, the only maintenance that's really required on these units is to replace the filters. And you know, this was one abused looking core. But what you'll see here is maybe a worst case scenario where the particulates will mat on the low velocity or the entering face side of the core. But what we did in this case was took this and peeled it back. And what you'll see here is this is an example of the tars and nicotine, or tars primarily, from this cigar bar that discolored the first just leading edge of the core material. But as you can see, nothing was carried inside. And what we tell you, in commercial applications especially, what we say is that you have to have the regular, and we'll tell you after so many hours you need to be replacing the filters. And then an annual inspection, visual inspection of the face area of the core. And you can solve a problem like this by simply using a soft, shop vac brush to clear that material off of it. So it does not get entrained into the ERV itself. So kind of following up on this, our core materials are warranted for 10 years, and the life expectancy of them is 20 years usually. And every time we go to replace a core for one reason or another, we have to fill out a form to justify why we're changing out the cores if they're really not used. We've never replaced a core under warranty in the 15 years that I've represented Renewair. Now, the one thing you can't do to this core, it does, the core material itself is made out of, well, if you looked at it, you would say, well, that's just cardboard, white cardboard. And because I'm a wise guy, I say, well, we couldn't possibly charge you this much if it were just cardboard. But what it is a material that is treated with a hydroscopic resin, and it helps create that affinity for a moisture transfer. But because it has that ability to absorb or transfer moisture, the one thing you can't do to this is put it in an application where humidity would overwhelm it. So an example of that would be an indoor pool. The other thing you can't do is wash it with a hose. And I have had people that have done that. So because it, in that case, it wants to absorb all the moisture, that's not a warranty claim, by the way. Oh yeah, throw them around and be like, you can open that, just take that, you can open that top. The top kind of gives you an idea of which way the airflows are. You won't break it, you can just open it up. Let's talk about controls for a minute. There are several different ways to control these units locally. You can also do a tie-in. I didn't put a slide in here for this, but you can do fan interlocks. But to address the intermittent side of the code, you've got proportional timers that you can set for each unit, and it will run a percentage of each hour. And then you can do spot or point of use controls as well. So that sort of gives you a manual override at a local in a local way. And as I said, the third option on this is a furnace interlock or a fan interlock with an area. And that's probably the one that we'll use more than anything else. The proportional timers or the point of use controller is something that you can use typically right in a bathroom. You know, if we're taking the place of an bath exhaust fan, the point of use control would be the best one to use. And you can tie that in with a proportional timer so that it would run for maybe 20 minutes or whatever you want, again, locally in each device. This is an example of a wall-mounted installation. So you are going to have in most of our units, you're going to have, and most HRVs or any other ERVs, you're going to have 4 connections, 2 from the outside, 2 to the inside, and it's just a question of how you're going to do this. So that is what we call an ED130. It's 130 CFM. Just to, again, illustrate the idea of the flexibility on the installation. That can be wall mount. That same unit can be ceiling mounted. The access to these panels have slide hinges right here, and it's entirely removable and easy to access.